Who would have thought that burning animal bones and then adding the ash to the two most common ingredients in a pottery body, china stone or feldspar and china clay or kaolin, would result in the porcelaneous fired product we now call bone china. In the early 18th century, porcelain was extremely popular with the well-to-do and often regarded as a luxury. The British called porcelain china because that is where it originated. It was fragile and it was also expensive because it was imported from China by the English East India Company. Several of the early 18th century pottery manufacturers in England were trying to produce a product which closely resembled the imported Chinese porcelain. The first development of what would become known as bone china is attributed to Thomas Fry at his porcelain factory near Bow in East London in 1748. Thomas Fry was born in Dublin in 1710 and won acclaim in his native island as a painter, engraver and enameller, before coming to London in 1734. Fry was also a keen inventor, and his love of art and invention came together when he devised a method for producing soft paste porcelain. The term soft paste refers to a porcelain-like body containing several ingredients and to the lower firing temperatures of the body of the porcelain, whereas hard paste porcelain is a body containing only feldspar and kaolin and fired to a much higher temperature. This was the secret of Chinese porcelain that hadn't yet been discovered in England at the period to which we are referring. Fry's factory was located near the cattle markets and slaughterhouses of East London, and hence he had easy access to animal bones. Fry and his team, and I say that because it's not totally certain that it was actually Fry that came up with the idea of adding animal bones, ash, to china clay and feldspar, which after much experiment resulted in a porcelaneous fired clay body. They must have had enough scientific knowledge to know that bone contains calcium and phosphorus, and calcium is an ingredient of a clay body, but it was the phosphate content which significantly contributed to the translucency aspect of the bone china. Bone ash is not actually ash in the true sense, because ash is the powdery residue left after the burning of a substance, but it is the name given to the very fine powder known as tricalcium phosphate when animal bones are calcined, and that means they are heated to about 1100 degrees centigrade to remove all organic matter and then ground in water to a very fine powder. Fry's experiments not only produced a porcelain of brilliant whiteness and luminescence, but one of extraordinary durability. Fry used up to 45% of bone ash in his formulation to create what he called fine porcelain. Although in quality it rivaled porcelain imported from Europe and China, the factory was not a commercial success. As is always the case when developing and perfecting a new product, much experiment and change takes place. Over the years at the Bow factory, several patents were taken out on the bone china recipes, which indicated mainly changes in the amount of bone ash and also other additives such as cullet, which is ground glass, and gypsum, which is calcium sulfate. It is also recorded that Thomas Fry added other ingredients to the calcination process as well as the bones, and in one of his patents he claims protection for a virgin earth produced by calcining animals, vegetables and fossils, but some in greater quantity than others. As all animal substances, all fossils are of the calcareous kind, such as chalk and limestone. The next pottery manufacturer of importance in the story of the development of bone china is Joshua Spode I. In his factory in Stoke-on-Trent, the year before his sudden death, he further developed Fry's concept between 1789 and 1793 and introduced a porcelain-like body which he called Stoke China. It was his son Joshua II who rechristened the ware bone china, which name has continued from then on. One of Spode's developments was to abandon Fry's procedure of calcining bones together with some of the other body raw materials, as mentioned before, and instead calcining just the animal bone. Both Spode's formulation and his business were successful. Bone china quickly proved to be highly popular, and as word got around, it led to the production of bone china by other English pottery manufacturers such as Worcester, Derby, Dalton, Wedgwood and Minton's, and later many more. His formulation of 6 parts bone ash, 4 parts of china stone and 3 parts of china clay remain the basis of all bone china, which is more or less equivalent to the modern formula of 50% bone ash, 25% feldspar and 25% kaolin. And how is bone china made? Because of the low content of clay in the bone china recipe, it is very low in plasticity, and forming by hand and on the potter's wheel can be difficult. So the main methods used to make objects are moulding and slip casting. After casting and forming, the pieces, now known as greenwares, are supported on specially made setters and placed in the kiln for the first bisque firing at 1250 degrees centigrade. The bone china clay transforms into a white translucent inert material with high tensile strength and is known as the biscuit. What is actually happening is that the ingredients and the silica in the formula in the high temperature have formed a type of glass which results in the translucence of bone china. Underglazed decorations will be applied to the biscuit if called for in the design. The pieces are glazed by dipping into a glaze solution or by being sprayed on and are then glaze fired to a lower temperature of about 1150 degrees centigrade, which will be the maturing temperature of a suitable glaze which may have a very low lead content. If further decoration, such as on-glaze enameling, decals, or gilding is needed, this is done on the glazed piece and then refired at a lower temperature again, ranging from 550 to 850 degrees centigrade. Bone china has a very narrow window of vitrification, which is the point where the clay body turns into its porcelain state. In the early days, wastage at the potteries was high due to the uncertain production techniques and, in particular, kiln wastage due to the lack of reliable methods of measuring kiln temperatures, where the kiln master usually relied upon the colour of the kiln atmosphere and the reflection of mature glazes to assess the temperature of the fire. The invention of the pyrometer and temperature cones at the turn of the 20th century made the firing process much more reliable. Well, how do you tell if your piece is made of bone china? Well, the first thing to do is to check the back stamp, which will tell you the manufacturer and the country of origin and some other specifications perhaps. But earlier bone chinas were not always back stamped. But bone china, because it can be made thinner than other porcelains, thinness and the translucency, of course, they will always be translucent. They are good guides as to whether it is bone china or not. Otherwise, lots of knowledge, lots of research, and also handling and familiarity with your bone china pieces. Thank you for watching.